Yo, yo. What is up? How we doing? How we thinking? How we feeling? Have you guys noticed that in your feed, it says repost right here, and you can toggle off. So, bye-bye all these repost chains that I don't care about. I can just filter that, so see exactly what I want without seeing garbage. So yeah, pretty awesome, huh? Long overdue. Like, this should have been implemented years and years and years ago. Because SoundCloud is kind of like a dead site now. So, just give me one moment. I gotta set up everything. Got to set up my notes again. Oh yeah, did you guys see the Dub Duels thing? Last week, I lost. Knew it. I freaking knew it. I won't be able to cover them tonight though. Just as a head up. This will be a somewhat shorter stream, so. All right. I have some new names here, so I'm excited about that. Some new fresh meat to critique. All right, Mecha Wolf. Mecha Wolf right here. I saw you in the chat. Placement to FFA got rejected for being too noisy. Interesting. I mean, with like dubstep labels, they care a lot about like mixing stuff, so I feel like they would be a stickler for that kind of stuff. Unneedingly so. How do I submit? There should be a link in the stream description, and you can go on a Patreon, and then the first post will be like the feedback form, so it'll be in there. I don't have too much to say, but I would agree. If this is the one that you sent to FFA, I could kind of get it. I guess it is pretty noisy and busy in the mixdown, and I feel like it's not like a bad thing, honestly. I've always complimented your use of silence in these songs. These are just like, it's always nice to hear it. It's always nice to hear nothing. The sub could be more loud, I guess. Since you have a lot of compression in the master too, like I don't want to say that you're using OTT, but it sounds kind of like you're using OTT. Everything feels like it's being pushed down a lot when it could be a lot louder. Like when your sub bass goes up in pitch, it seems like it's getting louder, which is kind of like an indicator that there is like OTT of some sort. If there isn't, you should shape your sound a little bit and make sure their sub is getting to the most dominant part of the mix. You can go on span and reference, excuse me. You can reference the sub loudness in your track with sub loudness of other tracks. And on span, if you look at the sub, I try to aim for around -30 dB on the indicator on span. So if you can hit close to that, then you are doing pretty good. Make sure you're referencing others dubstep songs. Like download another dubstep song that you like, and then just compare it and see how loud the sub is there. I also think contrasting frequencies is another useful tip for you. If you don't notice why something sounds good when you put a notch in like the 200 hertz range, it's because you are adding more contrast. You're essentially adding a gap between the sub and the mids and the highs. Or even if you put a notch in just like the 500 hertz range either, it adds that like gap and contrast. So like adding, that's what I talk about with adding saturation on a sub, that it adds harmonics in a certain like loudness series, I guess, because the second harmonic will be X amount as loud as the first harmonic, and the third harmonic will be X as loud as the second harmonic, and it's like it just kind of rolls off in the same exact way every single time. And so you can break that by having the sub be boosted, the fundamental boosted a little bit. If you listen to like drum and bass and stuff, they have really clean sub basses. They don't hardly ever use saturation on their bass because they do a lot of min maxing on their basses with distortion. Drum bass users, they use a lot of distortion in their bass, but they don't let it affect their sub. And they don't push their basses hard into the master where it creates those overtones. I don't like do remix requests. I mean, this is a feedback stream, so I like this little chug here. When you hear like this convulsion reverb and there's like some of those mid tones but getting all crunchy like that, it sounds sick. It sounds hard as fuck. I kind of get what they mean by it being pretty noisy, but I don't think it's like a downside either. It's whatever, man. They're like a dubstep label. They just care a lot about mixing and kind of at a fault. I don't even think they're that. Gosh, I'm gonna hate saying this, but like I don't think their quality warrants rejecting your song for that reason, because I heard some pretty questionable releases from there too. But as it goes, I mean, it's their label. They get to choose if they want to release it or not. Hey Recon, yes you can. You can go submit your song in the Patreon in the link in description. The thing I was gonna say too is these lasers are really getting overused here. They're present in almost every single bass, and I do like them, but just use them a little less and use them in a smarter way. I'm gonna go to Antique Shop for a quick little peek, and then come out an hour later with an enhanced locket that devours the souls of their adversaries. That's terrifying. I don't know where you got that from, and I don't know what that has to do with this, but thank you. I feel more knowledgeable about that now. Can you search up Midnight by Sun? No, I'm not gonna search up the song. I'm sorry, this is a feedback stream. I'm just gonna give feedback. Anyways, Mecha Wolf, I don't have that many notes just because it's like just good. So so good job, Mecha Wolf. It's always nice to hear something. I gotta say, some of your songs sound pretty similar, so just a heads up. Alright, we got Djo next. Djo. Damn, bro. That's the best thing I've heard from you so far. Straight up. This sounds good as fuck. I think your intro right here is clipping as well. I just kind of heard it now, but like, it sounds like it's clipping. Go into the projects and just turn the intro part down a little bit. Sick respace. The 16 bar drop, which is considered kind of short in today's terms. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but I'm just saying I like to hear more. Yeah, because your drop barely lasts 30 seconds. Your hi-hats are really quiet here. And generally these drops are, or these basses are pretty mono. I'd like to hear you just make them more wide. You could simply get a stereo expander, or just like a stereo with tool that just makes it straight up more wide, and that'd probably be fine. Your snare, it sounds really nice and crisp, and the transient cuts through really nice. It should get a little bit more fundamental. If you can get an EQ, just a little bell curve, and put it right where the snare's like frequency is, just boost that, and it sounds like it'll be good. But you have to compensate. Just make sure you compensate the level too, because when you boost the fundamental like that, it's gonna make it sound distorted. So just turn it down a little bit after that. You'll be good to go. Yeah, honestly, I would just put that on like the bass chain or whatever and just make them wider, like all together, because they sound really consistent actually. Yeah, but I mean, that's about all the feedback I have for you. Pretty solid, pretty awesome. Good submission. Proud of you. All right. Let's see who is next. Basti, you're next. And you only want feedback on the mastering. Gotcha.
No asteroids could vary their speed like that. It's too hazardous to work alone. Re-enter the ship immediately.
When soldiers were radiant.
They're being controlled somehow. Try again. Try with all possible ways of communications.
No mistake.
All right. I like the idea. It's pretty unique. The little distorted lead thing with the biased bass, pretty nice. Pretty fresh. I like it. So mastering things, put in the notes that the 5K range is pretty busy. 5K range around 3K as well. That is the zone where all OTT bases go to die. If you ever used OTT before and you process a lot with OTT, there will be a lot of like peaks in the 3 to 5K hertz range, because the way OTT works is it's a multiband compressor. And so since there's multiple bands, there are crossovers. And so one of the crossovers is 88 hertz and the other one is 3.4K hertz or 3.5K, something like that. So those crossovers leak sound. And so they aren't as compressed as other regions too. And so you get these little cone filter effects, not cone actually, like peaks in those areas where the crossovers are. And so then it sounds like the same bass. So when you have a lot of OTT, if you've ever had like an OTT growl before with bandpass, you'll hear that too. There's a lot of 3K, 5K hertz just pouring out, but no like high end or anything lower than that either. So in that range, if it's like too much, just get a little bell curve and turn it down, and then boost the very high end, and they'll probably fix that issue. But it's become like a standard sound now. It's like, oh, how'd you make that sound? And then you'll hear like it's got a lot of presence in the 3K range, and you're like, oh, well, it's probably OTT. That's why a lot of basses sound the same too. It's because they all have that range in the high end where it's like really pronounced. For your mastering as well, your sub is lacking. And it seems like it is being pushed pretty loud, but it's not loud enough for it to be a big problem. It's not getting oversaturated, but I think that the loudness that you have right now is taking away from the sub. If you ever boosted your sub before the master, your sub will start to sound overblown. And you have to balance this. I gave advice earlier about looking at span. If you look at span, excuse me. If you look at span and you see like after the master on span, look at the low end and look where it's hitting. Reference it in a song or like an artist that's known for having good mix downs or masters or something. I'd say like, Phase 1, Virtual Riot, even drum bass artists too. You can reference those. Mefuse, Noisia, Skrillex, all the good artists that are like for sure are mixing really well. Reference those artists and try to hit that range without distorting it too much. What you'll see that happens a lot of times is when you boost a sub before a master, you are sacrificing the loudness of the track. But I think that you should always prefer the sub over loudness on the track in every scenario because it just sounds better. And by the end of the day, the loudness is your consumer can just, or your listener, I guess, can just turn the volume up if they really, really are a stickler about how loud things are. But generally, you want to sound good first. And that's what I was talking about. When you boost the sub into the master, there's like a certain pattern and roll off that your bass has. If you like get just a sub bass and then distort it or put a soft saturation on it, the harmonics will roll off at a certain like rate, like 6 decibels per octave or 24 decibels per octave, kind of like an EQ, like putting a low pass on. And it's really hard to get just a nice clean sub. That's what I was talking about, like drum and bass artists. They have really clean subs without a lot of distortion or a lot of saturation. And that's a thing you should look out for, because you want to avoid having too many harmonics in your bass because it takes away from your actual bass, but you still want those harmonics in there to emphasize the bass more and make it grittier, dirtier, whatever. You just don't want it to overpower and take away from the fundamental tone. That's all I really have to say about this one. The mix is pretty solid. Oh, the sidechain too. Your sidechain is really short. You should make it a bit longer.
When sought is radiant.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for the submission. Sounds pretty sick. Moving on to the next one. We got Retcon. Welcome, Basti. Basti. Bestie. You're welcome, Bestie.
Prime. will be reborn.
Interesting. I liked your gun-based sound design, but it's a little too much. It's too loud and frankly drowning everything out around it and clipping into the master, so yeah, I'll go from like start to finish. The progression here doesn't really fit. It's in like major, which I don't think fits dubstep generally, unless you're making a like a happier dubstep song. But it sounds like the vibe you're going for is more like antsy tension.
And your world will be reborn.
Like I don't think there's anything happy about saying that your world is gonna be reborn. Like that's kind of creepy, don't you say? And something like a pattern that goes like la la. I don't know. It's like too happy. La 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 la. If you're gonna write a progression that is gonna have like a creepy tone to it, utilize half steps a lot. So like going from C to B or F to E. If you're in D sharp minor, you should start emphasizing the F sharp to F half steps or the B to A sharp half steps. And those create a lot of tension and makes it seem like kind of more creepy. And using half steps kind of emphasizes that because it sounds really off-putting and like you're going down a note or like you're off scale, but you're not.
And your world will be reborn.
Also, damn, your buildup is just so loud. You're not cutting any frequencies off, you're just letting them all hang out like to dry or something. Add some reverb, add some filters, high pass it, do some funky shenanigans, make it mono. Like it sounds too raw and it's distorting into the mix, which is also bad. So take care of that. Also, if you guys remember me talking about making buildups, you don't want to just continue the progression in the buildup. That's a no-no. Don't ever do that unless you have the progression in the buildup too. Like the way you're setting this up is as if the progression is going to continue in the drop, but it's not. It's going to be like heavy dubstep. And also, you're just taking away from tension and making it less intense of a buildup. You're building up kind of just like this melodic, happy sound. Like they're doing with the drums. Man, everything is so loud. It's hard to tell what's going on. Just turn it down. So the second thing is the convolver that you have on here. I can tell you're using convolver because the stereo wideness is all funky. So when using convolver, you need to be careful of the IR that's being used because the IR will pan things very strangely sometimes. And just so that you're aware of like what is panning, just make sure that it's not doing anything weird to your low end especially. Sometimes when I use a convolver, I will just apply it to the high band or something, or turn the tone all the way up so it doesn't affect the low end. But sometimes, if you put a convolver on your bass, it will pan like some parts of the low end, like a hard left or hard right, and it sounds really horrible. But that's how the IR is recorded. Like maybe the low end there was like that, or maybe you pitched it up or something, or pitched it down to where it's pans hard left, hard right. So I was listening a Murata. That's why it's so loud. Murata uses a ton of OTT, and I actually kind of would advise against like using Murata as a reference for mixing or mastering, because while he's really good at production, he's very, very inconsistent with his masters. Listen to his WTF remix, and then listen to his Nefarious remix, and then listen to Blunder. They all sound different, like really different mixing wise. So an artist like that is really inconsistent. Or even Portal. Listen, I talked about Portal a bit earlier because like his snare is completely whack in Portal. Like it's just, it sounds kind of good, but it looks fucking weird and probably could be way better. When you're mixing and referencing someone, make sure that someone is consistently producing something that is high quality, that isn't just like a standalone thing, or that you can like compare things to, I guess. Because in that instance where you're referencing Murata, you only have that one song to go off, and if your song is a little bit different and you're going for a different style, you have nothing else to reference than that one song. There's a lot of instruments that he's probably using that you're not, and so on and so on. Good thing. Oh yeah, just make sure your convolver is just not like hard panning things left or right, because sometimes it just happens. In this case, it is happening. Like your bass, if you listen to like your low mids, it's getting panned hard left. So it sounds really weird. I mean, your instrument's getting completely drowned here too. Just turn on the top layer of that bass and it'll sound a lot better. I also want my opinion on what label would take this. I am not entirely sure. I'm kind of not in the realm of like submitting to labels, but I think this has like label quality to it, definitely. Do you have like a label? Do you have like a label in mind that you want to submit to? Because you probably name one, I would know if they're good or not, but I don't know them by name. I think FFA was the other one that I was talking about, but it's because someone mentioned it. I think it was Mecha Wolf. But yeah, good song. Definitely needs some work on the mix, but it's getting there. All right, next we have Neo Chrono. Neo Chrono, you're on Dub Duels. I did not hear your song yet, so oh well. Oh yeah, didn't Aver just like give up? I saw that it just said you won. So rip. Aver fucking beats me, and then second round in they just don't submit. Love that. So just be careful, dude. Once you're put up against a Square 4 person, there's gonna be some real competition. You gotta figure out what the judges want. You totally have to fucking like appeal to them because they made some funky decisions. I had a prediction sheet and I don't know what happened to it. I have to just look at my stream, my last one, to see like what I was correct about. Because I was like making a prediction thing and I chose the ones that I liked. But I definitely know that not all of them were chosen. Thankfully, there was Ominous and Sweet Tooth there that I could kind of anchor my opinion on a little bit. I love this lead. Oh shit.
Watch out, down like. Watch out, down like.
That's sick, y'all. What the fuck? Dude, that was sick. You won already. Damn. Well, I mean, I'll be rooting for you for the rest of Dub Duels. So, nothing else much to say. I don't have any feedback for that at all. That was great. The only feedback I can think of is like your bass is very mid-tone heavy and you're neglecting the high end a little bit. But honestly, that's a nitpick. You're probably also kind of utilizing fills a little too much. I know fills are really cool sounds, but use them sparingly. When you ever use a fill, you're kind of taking away space that you could use for a motif or like a memorable part. Even though they're really cool sounds, you just don't want to overuse them. You can fill that space with something else too. That's really all the feedback I have. But keep going, dude. You've got it. You should release something on a big honkin' label soon. NSD. Ducking big like NSD. They'll get on NSD, right? Surely. Surely. Come next time I come at least battle. They'll just like get paired with you and then immediately quit. Like, okay. I went this far, I'm just gonna quit now. Paid out. Whoa. What the fuck? Oh my god. That is fucking loud as hell. That's way too noisy. Right, well. I definitely liked the intro you had going here. Okay, so this high ring is just too loud. You just turn it down. That's a pretty simple fix. And right here, your kick is too loud, so just turn down the kick here. And it sounds like there's a clap playing just like every single half note. So just turn down that noise. You have like a noise thing going on. Turn down the noise a lot, and also high pass that noise, because the reason why it sounds like a clap is because there's like a bunch of mids. And you don't want that. So just high pass the white noise. So it's just making it really noisy too. Like there's no character in this. It just sounds really noisy. There's nothing distinguishing any tone. There's nothing to remember here. It's just noise. And the kick is a pretty bad sound too. Like just the actual kick, not any way you're sound designing or mixing. Just the sample just needs to be changed. Does not fit the style. Here, your kick is just like distorting. There's like a lot of mids present. You can't tell that the low end is getting distorted here. Turn that down. Yeah, there's a really weird riser here. Like, sure, it sounds like someone just like whistling in my ear. Yeah, in this part, there's just way too much noise here. Like, it's too much noise, too much distortion. The sub is actually not present because of it. Make it way, way less noisy, and then it'll sound good. But your master is also just too loud. So you do need to fix that. But otherwise, I like the intro a lot. I like the lock things that you have going on here. So that is pretty tight. I'm gonna delete this one. We'll move on to the next one. And next up we have Zwig. And before we start this one, I'm going to get a drink, so be back. Okay. What is up? I'm back. I got a water. Some awesome water. Okay. Swig.
It looks like you're descending, sir. I need to make sure you are climbing, not descending. Air T2 Golf, stay altitude. Aircraft 500. Air T2 Golf, low altitude alert. Climb immediately. Climb immediately. Climb the airplane. Maintain 5,000. Climb the airplane, please. Just level up the plane and climb the airplane up to 5,000 when you can, sir. You appear to be descending again, sir. Are you stay altitude?
Mayday. Mayday.
Alright, man.
It looks like you're descending, sir. I need to make sure you are climbing. Air T2 Golf, stay altitude. Aircraft 500. Air T2 Golf, climb the airplane, please. Just level up the plane and climb the airplane up to 5,000 when you can, sir. You appear to be descending again, sir.
Mayday. Mayday.
That's pretty cool. That's a good job for the fake out. Oh, okay. Guess we put a gate there. All right. So you mainly wanted mixing advice, so I'm gonna probably stick to that for the most part. I left some notes about sound design and all that stuff, so take that as you will. But I'm gonna focus on the mixing, and I'm gonna comment on that only. Your mixing is pretty poor. Your sub bass is not coming through at all. It's very washy. Your low mids are really present, but there's no sub. Your drums mixing is like they're all just mids. It makes me feel like you had like a high pass on the entire master, because I don't hear the thump of the kick. at all. I don't hear the frontal of the snare at all. It's just like mids, mids, and more mids. And then your snare is also really, really distorted, and I think your kick is also distorting as well, but I can't really tell that much because it sounds like your low end is being cut off completely. Yeah, when you gate the vocals here, it sounds really goofy. It's like, so don't gate the vocals like that. Just repeat one segment of the vocal over and over again and cut it off. Don't put a gate on it and just expect me to like it. Your sidechain is also way too sharp. And because it's so sharp, I can tell what you're not sidechaining, and you need to sidechain more things. You want to sidechain as much as you can, honestly. The things you shouldn't sidechain are maybe like a cymbal that you think is important for the rhythm. But you should mostly be sidechaining a lot of your elements. Your sidechain is way too sharp in the sense that it feels like a trigger, like it's either on or off. There's no fade in, there's no sweep. It's not smooth. It's also kind of too long. So you need to be looking at how long your kick is, and then kind of matching the shape of the kick with the sidechain curve. Yeah, but those are like the major issues of your song. I think you should focus on referencing other sounds and just look up like basic, tutorials on like sidechaining stuff, and like how people get their low end. So people will high pass all their basses and then make a dedicated sub, and that dedicated sub will be like where all the low end goes. And for master advice, just make sure everything on the master is clean first. Essentially, you want to make your pre-master sound like the mastered version. You want your mix to be so good it already sounds mastered. That's how good your mix should sound. So just focus on the mixing first, mastering second. Mastering will always just be getting the song as loud as possible without clipping it. But that is like only 5% of the work when it comes to making your actual sounds sound good. So just focus on the mixing part. But yeah, thank you for submitting. I hope that helps with your songs and future endeavors. So thank you for submitting. Next up we have the Quantum Path, and they just want mixing advice. And they had quite a bit of notes. They said no specific timestamp based problems, but I am frequently told by other producer friends that my mixing is very inconsistent and often too wide. If you have any specific advice for consistent mixing, that would be great. Please don't recommend any VSTs though. I don't have space. I use FL and Vital, Loom 2, the free Melda plugin, and most of the kilohertz bundle. Granted, this is one of my better IDs, but wanted your input. Thanks. All right, we'll get into that. You're welcome. I hope you submit some more, and honestly, if you get better at mixing and stuff, I'll be here to guide you along. There's a lot of bad advice out there, by the way. In the EDM scene, like it's just abundant, dude. They're so abundant. I'm gonna start a series where I just look at TikToks and like make fun of them for being bad because there's so much bad advice. Okay, so Quantum Path. I'm gonna look at your song. You also just wanted mixing feedback, so this one will also be pretty short, and then the stream will end here. So Quantum Path. Oh. I already like this intro. Whoa. Okay, well that's it, I guess. Okay. Well, sound design advice aside, your bass sounds really weird. I don't know what your sub bass is. Like, your sub bass is like pitching up and down a lot, and it's also really, really loud. I don't know if this is like a thing that you have in the master, but it sounds like it's your sub is just way too loud and it's taking away all the sound. So it's hard to really tell what's going on because your sub's clipping everything. So yeah, that's one thing, is your sub is just too loud. You have a weird white noise layer that is also completely mono. And so I think when your friends say that your mixing is really consistent, is that you'll have like completely mono sounds in your mix, and then sounds that are like just really wide. Like there's something really wide in here that's kind of not in the high range. It's like in the mid or mid lows. And it just sounds really funky. When you have like a stereo problem, generally your stereo will go up with the frequency. So like a really high frequencies, those sounds are typically really, really spacious and stereo. And then lower down the frequency wave, your sub and your kick and all that generally is more mono. And so that kind of curve, like curve upwards for like stereo width, you want to usually keep the peace with that. You don't want to make it weird where your high end is really mono and then your mids are really stereo and then your lows are also mono again, because that's kind of like funky. It doesn't make any sense. That's what doesn't make sense like spatially when you listen to something, because as humans, like high end things are typically really close to us and then are like really near us or in the left side of our head or the right side, so they're pretty immediate, hard panned things. You know, things like rumbles or things in the distance are generally mono because they come from a really narrow point relative to where you're at, and so it just sounds really mono. And that's why like high end things, you know, acoustics, high end travels less than low end. That's why like 3G towers for cell phones can go so far, but like 5G is really short. You'll hear a lot more low end than high end occasionally. And when you hear high end, it's usually really close to you. And also very stereo. problem's really strange because I feel like a lot of your problems with stereo width is from your sound design, and it's like an effect that is hard to pinpoint. It could be like a flange you're using that has stereo width, or a phaser. If you're using Serum, the phaser and flanger are offset stereo by default. If you don't want them to be stereo, you can go into the phase knob and just turn that down, and it'll take away the stereo width on the phaser and the flanger by default. But you have some weird effect that's adding stereo. If you have like something in post that is making that happen, just check that and see if it's something you actually want, or if you can change it to only affect the high end. But yeah, thank you for submitting. I enjoyed listening, and I hope you learned from my feedback. All right, that is it for today's stream. I'll be streaming Saturday at 5 p.m. for production stream, and then next week for more feedback streams. So yeah, thank you guys for submitting. See you guys. Bye bye.